I can never say what's in a person's mind.
Right.
But I can tell you what I was told. I worked with a young lady who happened to be white, Caucasian, however we want to put it.
Right.
And so we're talking one day, and she knows I'm the pastor of a church, and we're talking one day, and I said something to her, and she said, well, that's not what I heard. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, my pastor told us that you all were cursed, and that's why, as a whole, blacks are not as elevated as whites are economically. And I said, well, where do you get the idea that we were cursed? And that's why. So she goes back, she said, and she, goes back to Noah. And she says that's when he was teaching them about Noah and Noah getting off of the ark with his sons. And, as you know from your studying, that Noah gets drunk and one of Noah's sons sees him, naked and covers him up. And when Noah finds out, he gets angry because his son covers him up and he curses him. Right. So their concept is that from that lineage, that's where blacks come from. So that's what she's telling me. Right. And that's what people use back, in slavery time to justify enslaving us as well. Right. So that same kind of teaching comes forward that we have been cursed. And that's why we are the way we are. And that's why economically we're below them. That's why intellectually we're below them. All these kind of things. So I found it, kind of sad. Right. And at the same time, I was angry that she would tell me that her pastor actually taught them this. Right. Now that's from a well-respected white Baptist church that's in Norfolk. I happen to know where the church is in Norfolk. A nice sized Baptist church that I would imagine, based on the size of the church, has a capacity of about 700 to 800 people. Right. Now, if you're teaching people that, what are they to assume? Right. You're believing the pastor. Right. And the pastor's telling you that black folk were cursed by God. Right. And so therefore that positions us lower, I guess, us because God put us lower. Right. So how do you overcome that thought? So I don't know if it's them saying we don't want to go against God who cursed you, or if we don't want to elevate you because that means now we're being equal with the cursed person, or, right. I can't tell you where their heart is at. I just know what she told me was why, it's right. done that way. And I would presume that if one white pastor taught that about, there you go, that he wasn't the only one because somebody taught him. Right. I don't know what seminary he went to, but somebody taught him. Right. And whoever taught him taught somebody else. And right. that person taught somebody else. And if that's a prevalent teaching, about that great deluge, then that would go a long way in explaining mm-hmm. why they view us as substandard to them. Right. The interesting thing is that if a 10-year-old boy or girl came and told you that, mm-hmm. I can wrap my head around it because you're 10. Mm-hmm. Not no grown adult. Because if you say that out loud, you sound foolish. Well, I thought so. It's like and I've done this to people that've come to me with some crazy ideas. This was years ago, back when Walmart went to Mexico. Mm-hmm. The black people in one particular area thought that came to me and said, Walmart sold to the Mexicans. The Mexicans own Walmart now. Mm. And I said, where's that on the news? I saw it in the paper. I said, is it national news? No. I said, listen to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. That's the same thing I would tell a young lady. It's like, listen to what you're actually saying out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense. First off, if I was to even think about it, why would the person who covered Noah up be cursed? Well, but he was, though. I'm just saying. Yeah. Noah did curse him. What she said, that's in the Bible. Okay. The Bible says that Noah cursed him because he did that. Because now why Noah did it, I can tell you why the Bible says he did it. Right. because in Noah's eyes, he hadn't been as looking at his naked body. Okay, so it's like you're intruding in my space. What she said was factual, that Noah did curse the younger son. Mm-hmm. The issue is, does that mean that all black folk are cursed? You know what I'm saying? That to me is a huge issue. Does it make sense to me? No. I'm with you. I'm with you. Right. It makes no sense to me. But the problem is, if your pastor teaches you that,
right?
You know what I'm saying? If the pastor teaches you that, and he's your spiritual leader, you know, how likelihood are you to think about it logically and question it? You know, I mean, there's so many things that we are taught, and you know, and I don't want to shake folk up by going over everything, but there's so many things that we are taught by preachers who don't have a great understanding of the Bible, that we just step out and believe, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, and that's just what that just, you know, I'll give you a quick one for it. I'll give you a quick one. Right? People say things like this, that a loved one that's died is now watching over them. And it's now like they were in trouble, and they'll believe that loved one got them out of trouble. Okay, now, Jesus says specifically, right, mm-hmm. that that's impossible. He said that there's a wide gulf between those who have passed on and those who are here, and that it's impossible to come back. That's what Jesus said. Mm-hmm. Look how many people believe that happens every day.
Right.
Even though it's in the Bible.
Right.
Because someone who did not clearly understand the Bible taught them that, yes, that's what happens. So I guess that's why I'm saying that, you know, I'm with you 100%. You're right. Absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. That it doesn't make sense if you say it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if
zero.
But if the preacher tell you, and then another preacher tell you, and then your mama say, yeah, that's right. The black folk or Negroes or whatever they call them, right. Yes, they were cursed. They were cursed because Noah cursed them. And that meant from generation to generation, they were cursed. And that's why they were slaves. And you know, and then if the president says, and they come from those S-hole countries and all, right. You know, I'm just, you know,
right.
I think that to me would kind of explain somewhat of why the segregation is there, because and maybe it's because harshness really haven't changed. Again, I can't judge why they do, but maybe it really is just an idea that we've grown. You know, it's been since 1968, and here we are, 2019, and maybe their hearts really haven't changed. Maybe they really are still separatists at heart,
right?
Quietly, but publicly say, well, you know, I know that all people are equal.
Yeah. Now let me take off this hat and put on the Fruits of Israel hat, mm-hmm. as what they would add, what the extra woke folks would ask you.
Right.
If then, Pastor Daniels, why are we begging to worship with them then? If they don't really want to be with us, why are we begging for that?
Well, I'm not sure we're begging to worship with them as much as we're begging for acceptance. See, I think that's what we're begging for. You know, I think that most Black people really are comfortable not being around white people, mm-hmm. if everything truly is equal. Okay, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Most Black folk prefer to go to a Black nightclub, mm-hmm. you know, and they ain't looking to go to a white club. But if you tell me we can't go to a white club, then we got a problem. See, then we're going to be like, nah, you don't tell me I can't go listen to Neil Diamond if I want to. If I want to go listen to them, if I want to go and do the hucky buck, then I want to go do the hucky buck, right? See, I think from my perspective that the issue is one of when are we as Christians going to be Christians in the true sense of the word?
Right.
Jesus said that the golden rule, the greatest commandment, he said, is to love thy neighbor. First, greatest is to love God with all your mind, body, heart, and soul. And the second, he said, is like unto the first, to love thy neighbor as thyself. If the whole Bible is placed upon love, if the whole idea of Christianity is to, love your neighbor, love your brother, if heaven doesn't, there's no indication that heaven is denominational. There's no indication that heaven has a suburb. There's no indication that heaven has, a black neighborhood or a white neighborhood. I guess just from a standpoint of a leader in the Christian community, if I'm going to be a minister, it's not that I'm trying to go where they don't want me. It's that I'm trying to build an atmosphere where what I teach is real. Mm-hmm. That we really do make ourselves such that you want to worship together, that you want to worship together, right, because you're worshiping the same God, right, and you understand the value of worship. See, that's the other critical piece. If you understand God, what you understand is he is a jealous individual, a jealous entity, I should say. Mm. Not because that's what I say, it's because that's what the Bible says. I am a jealous God. Right. Jealous gods, that speaks to the fact that he says, in our terms, we would call him a narcissist, right? Mm-hmm. We would say that God is self-centered. He has a right to be self-centered. Right. Everything revolves around God. That's life. Everything revolves around him. What would make him feel better if people over here worship individually, or if everybody in the whole world got together and acknowledged how great he was? Right. So from that standpoint, it just makes more sense. Perhaps if we would do that, it would change the whole world. Mm-hmm. It could, because that meant that the retribution for our stupidity would diminish, mm-hmm, and the whole world would be changed. The mass shootings are done predominantly, for example, by white men. Mm-hmm. Predominantly by white men. Predominantly by white men that are striking out because they have racist tendencies. Mm-hmm. Well, most of them get that from their understanding of the Bible. Right. And that means that somebody's teaching them out of the Bible wrong. Mm-hmm. And so a segregated Sunday has an impact on my safety on Monday. Yeah. And that to me, I mean, when I can't go to a football game, right, without, I can't take in a seat with a back on it. The pocketbooks have to be clear, so you can see through them. Right. It has an impact, and that I can't get on a plane without almost stripping down. Right. That it's an impact, and so if we could reverse that trend and really truly, become a nation under God, as our money says, one nation under God. If we could truly do that, it would change things. Right. And, and then to be honest, that one nation under God, it's not like that because of black people. No. 1,000% I'm a full belief of that black people as a whole would not have any problem worshiping and doing things integrated. Right. It's, what's funny when you mentioned about the going to the honky tonk. I grew up in Nashville, and I really didn't know that country music was quote unquote redneck music, quote unquote racist music. Mm-hmm. It didn't exist in Nashville. It was like you just basically went to the place, you listened to country music, people did the little two-stepping thing. Mm-hmm. Nobody looked at me crazy.
No big deal. I move here years later, I move here to Virginia. I see the PBR. I told the sheriff White, I was like, why don't we go to PBR? I was like, change the pace, listen to something different. Watch. She's like, oh, no. I said, what you mean? No. For like, it's just country music. It's a bull in there. You can get on the bull. And like, no, that ain't for us. I was like, what you mean for us? And then when I stepped foot in there to look around, people the head snapped, and I was like, well, what's wrong with y'all? But it's not me, it's them.
Right.
But I guess when the hometown of country music, I guess they understand where country music came from, so they won't have no problem with black people. It's just weird how in Tennessee it's still deep South. But I tell people all the time, the most racist place I've been to, Virginia is number one. Number two city was Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, I was going to say, Boston is more racist than Virginia. And I can tell you there are places in Alabama that still have sundown towns.
Yeah.
And there are places in West Virginia that still have sundown towns. And there may be some others, but those are places that I know that it is not a secret.
Yeah.
Where, you are told, hey, you better not be here after dark, But and think about the irony of that. You have sundown towns that have churches.
Right.
You have a church so that would suggest to you, if I have a sundown town, right? And for those people who don't know what a sundown town is, it is a town where it is known that if you are black, by the time the sun goes down, you better be in your house or out of that town. Okay?
Right.
Or else you're fair game. Now, but they have churches in that town. So what does that say for that church? What does it say for that pastor? That here you are, the pastor of a church in a sundown town, and it's a sundown town, but you are not engaged actively in saying, hey, listen, we need to change this town. And I think that to me, that is the power of the church that ought to be implemented. You know what I mean? That's the power of the church. That if the churches would start saying, hey, listen, we can't deal with racism. We can't deal with segregation. We serve a God that is the God of all. He created all. That's what we say. Even if he did curse us, okay, what does it have to do with you still going along with that concept?
Right.
Yeah. See, to me, if the pastors would stand up, and it would change a lot in all churches. If we could come to that realization that truth has not changed, but we don't want to see it for what it is. A lot. We want to just no. We welcome all cultures in our church. Okay, you may, but what are you doing to ensure that that's pervasive, throughout? Are you really teaching that so when your people leave your church, they're welcome?
Yeah.
And that's in Boston, let's face it, as you know, I know I've been to Boston several times, worked in Boston. Hey, it is not a welcoming place.
No. No.
It's as far as, you go to a basketball game, football game, this kind of thing. But the bottom line is, when Boston schools were integrated, it was one of the last places to integrate.
Yeah.
And they fought it. During my time, they fought it. They fought integration more there than they did in Virginia.
Yeah.
More than they did in Alabama. But again, they have churches. And Boston at that time was highly Catholic.
Yeah. Now, can you imagine, for this alone, the people should get right. When you walk into heaven and you've made it, well done. And you walk in there and there's a bunch of black people waiting to greet you, right? Now you're miserable. You did all this stuff, got into heaven, but you don't like black people. Now it's half, let's say it's half black, half white. Right. Now you're upset. Like now What's your alternative? The alternative is hell. So if you can't, like, you're basically now in heaven.
But heaven becomes your hell because you're with black folk.
Right. So,
or because you're with Asian folk.
right. It's like, once again, when you say this stuff out loud, it makes no sense. It's like, like, even if you was to make the statement that no black people are going to heaven. Once again, back to sounding foolish.
That's sounding foolish. Or even if, and I'll take it a step further, because you're right, that makes no sense.
Right.
Let's just say, because we know the body doesn't get there, right? But I know you're speaking, in a way to just kind of put it out there. Let's say, because your soul, I know some people are going to say, but the soul has no color. Okay, I agree, 100% right. The soul has no color. However, here's what we say, that God created us all. We call him God the Father, right? Now, what makes us think that if God created all of us and gave all of us the option of coming back home, he's happy with one child for hating the other child?
That's right.
Why would we think that way? That he's happy if we teach people to hate the other child, or they hate. I'm teaching people to hate my other children, but we don't think it. But like you said, so when you say it out loud, then it's like, wait a minute, okay, I really am doing that if I'm teaching this foolish stuff about, Noah's son was cursed and therefore blah, 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 black folk it is. So you're teaching them to hate one of God's creation, When you think about, that kind of hatred, what bothers me the most is the same people that will teach that segregation attitude in churches are the same folk that if the dog is in trouble will move heaven and earth to protect the dog.
Yeah.
But won't take 2 steps to help feed a poor black child.
Yeah.
But yet the black child is created in God's image, or at least, even if he is just in the of a cursed son,
right? That
son was still saved,
right,
on the ship, on the ark,
right,
and therefore the son was in God's image, and all their offspring are in God's image.
Yeah. And another thing that don't make sense is when racist white people, I just love little black children. And they will take care of but that black child grows up to be a black adult.
Right.
And then now you don't like the black adult. Well, what happened? There was no difference. That's what doesn't make, none of it to me, honestly, makes any sense. Right. And I tell people, I control me. Mm-hmm. That's all the 3 feet that's around me, my little environment, I control me. Mm-hmm. You told me years ago, CB, listen to what I'm preaching, but go in the Bible yourself, and study it yourself, learn it for yourself. Mm-hmm. Church is tennis. It's an individual sport. It's singular track meet. You by yourself. You're coaching me, right, but I still have to go in here.
I can't get to heaven for you.
Right. You're coaching me, right, so I gotta play my own game.
Right.
So a lot of people don't take the responsibility for that. They say, well, you know what? The pastor told me this is what it is. That's what it is. Versus this, hey.
Yeah. And I'll take it back to the leadership. The leadership are not taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Really, I take it back to them because they were coached by somebody.
Yeah, that's right.
They were, and we talk about people who are, I'm not just talking about preachers who are not seminary trained. Again, those preachers that were with me in that conference, probably 90% had doctor's degrees. So they seminary trained.
Right.
So, and that was the president's message to them. We know, and this was the gentleman that made the comment, he's white. His comment was, we know.
Right.
We know the color of his eyes. We know the color of his skin. We know the texture of his hair. So we know the picture that we hang up does not accurately represent it. And we have the education to know that. But we still don't teach the truth.
Yeah. It's a shame. So to close out, what's some possible solutions that the individual can do to help the situation?
I think that the individual, whether you be black or whether you be white, need to do what you said a little earlier, right? Is we have to own up to our own individuality, and we have to recognize that when teaching is incompatible, we have to ask ourselves, why is it incompatible? If on the one hand, my pastor is preaching me to love everyone, but then on the other hand, teaches me that a certain group of people are different and are not worthy, then that's not compatible teaching. So I need to question that. I need to ask myself those questions. Does that make sense? And then what do I do about it?
Right.
If I'm in a church that says, you know what, and the climate of your church, if I'm in a church that is evident that this church is not open to people of different ethnic backgrounds, whether it's a black church that's not open to whites or Asians, or whether it's an Asian church that's not open to blacks and whites, whether it's a white church not open to blacks and, whatever. Anytime you're in a church that's not open, honestly, the culture of that church is not open, you need to consider, why are you supporting that church? Why am I supporting them with my presence? Why am I supporting them with my tithes? Why am I supporting the ideas that they, espouse? And I think we have to hold our leaders accountable. Like you said, it's an individual thing. We have to hold those leaders accountable when what they teach is not compatible to the Bible. And then we have to hold ourselves accountable and say, we're going to make a difference.
Thank you so much, Dr. Daniels. This is your host, C.B. Baker. Till next time.